Intertech T11 TELEVEN Opinion. The interior of the Intertech T11 TELEVEN is very open and has the current standard of a two-chamber system. The chambers are separated by a power supply cover. In order not to completely seal off the lower area, the cover has two spaces for 120mm fans and two openings for laying cables. The power supply and the HDD cage for two 3.5 hard drives are hidden in the lower chamber. As usual, there is space for the main board and expansion cards above the cover. Due to its compact size, this MIDI tower supports a maximum of 8 TX main boards. In addition to the ones already mentioned, there are 6 further openings for cable management around the main board tray. However, 3 of these openings are probably covered by a normal-sized main board. The front area of the interior is designed in such a way that possible fans can convey air into the interior unhindered. The 7 PCI slot covers on the back are, surprisingly, all reusable, have ventilation slots and are screwed outside the housing. Now let's take a look at the back. The first thing you notice here is that there is very little space between the main board tray and the side panel, which could make it difficult to lay cables. A cable management channel has been inserted in the left area and there are 2 stops for cable ties. This cable duct also serves as an assembly space for 2 2.5 SSDs. 2 additional data carriers can be accommodated in the form of 2 3.5 HDDs in the cage below the cover. The power supply unit is mounted to the right of the cage and lies on 4 foam rubber elements for decoupling. Now we come to system installation. As hardware we use an AMD Ryzen 5 1400 on an MSI B350 PC made with 16GB Crucial Ballistics Sport LT grade DDR4 2666. The Ryzen is cooled by an EKL Alpine Matterhorn Pure and is overclocked to 3.9 GHz. A GTX 1066GB from Gigaptaors is responsible for the image output. The power supply is provided by the non-modular Berlin Pro RGB 650 watts with an RGB fan. The installation of all components was quickly done due to the open interior and the partially pre-installed spacers. What was more difficult was the wiring. There is very little space behind the mainboard tray to lay cables there. In addition, there is no separate opening for the 4+4-pin power cable of the CPU at the top left and a large part of the cable management openings are covered by the mainboard or SSDs. On cable extensions, but you should definitely do without in order to avoid frustration. Nevertheless, with a bit of work we managed to achieve a fairly decent end result. In terms of space for hardware, this MIDI tower does a much better job. A maximum of 165mm of space is available for CPU coolers. That is enough for almost all powerful air coolers. Even with a maximum possible length of 305mm for graphics cards, hardly anything is left to be desired. Only the maximum of 150mm for the power supply limits something. However, if you consider the target group of this housing, it is unlikely that longer power supplies will be bought in connection with this housing. The assembly of data carriers is simple. 3.5 HDD are simply pushed into the cage below the power supply cover using 2 plastic rails. If necessary, the HDD can be secured with a screw. 2 2.5 SSDs can be attached directly to the mainboard tray with 4 screws. Finally, we come to the temperatures that were reached in the Intertech T11 TELEVEN. Prime 95 and Firmark were run at room temperature of 19 degrees Celsius for 15 minutes during the stress test. In addition, this test was carried out in 2 different versions: standard equipment without fan, 3 case fans on 50% PWM. The test without all case fans is unrealistic, but since the T11 does not have any fans at the factory, we wanted to test this variant at least once. As expected, the result was not good. Even before the 15 minutes had elapsed, the CPU temperature rose to 100 degrees Celsius and the computer crashed. In the second variant, we have equipped the MIDI tower with 3 fans, Arctic P12 PWM. Here too, the final results were not so good. At 88 degrees Celsius, the CPU is dangerously close to the manufacturer's stated maximum. The graphics card isn't exactly cool either at 82 degrees Celsius. In conclusion, it can be said that the Intertech T11 TELEVEN is not suitable for heated gaming systems and is more suitable as a housing for office systems. Now we come to the final conclusion of this review. At the beginning of this test, we asked ourselves what you can expect from a case with a price of €25.99. With the Intertech T11 TELEVEN you get an unexcited and average equipped MIDI tower for this price, which offers enough space for hardware. But the positive properties stop there. On the downside are the low material thickness and quality, poor airflow, little space for cable management, missing dust filters and a side window made of acrylic glass. The price of the Intertech T11 TELEVEN is low, the value that the buyer gets is also not exactly high. Due to the poor airflow, this tower is only suitable for office or small budget gaming systems. If you invest €10 to €15 more, you get significantly more housing for the additional money. Intertech A3411 Creek is one example.